Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, thank you. There'll be some of my comments that will at least not be similar, perhaps echo my colleague, and some of it that you probably also heard yesterday. I want to start with what I just heard from my colleague, however, about land use not being, sometimes the most fun of the items that commissioners or council people hear. They can be very difficult. I have had the honor, truly, of being involved in volunteer boards and commissions in town council in the town of Castle Rock for over 10, 15 years. I forget exactly what it is. It started volunteering on the town's water commission. It was really a utilities commission back then, but the water commission, where we were trying to figure out the long-term water plan for Castle Rock, because all of Castle Rock's water was just coming out of alluvial snowmelt from thousands of years ago. It tasted great, but it's not a very long-term solution. We needed to come up with something that worked for our community. We did come up with something that worked specifically for our community. I then went to Planning Commission. I had the opportunity to actually serve twice on the town's Planning Commission, served for a few years, and then came back and had the honor of being the chair of the town of Castle Rock's Planning Commission. Early in my Planning Commission time, land use was probably a little easier. Little backdrop, the vast majority of Castle Rock had been entitled, zoned in the 1980s, legally entitled, property rights decided back in the 1980s. Market conditions weren't really ripe yet to be able to come in and develop some of those parcels. Once the market improved and once the population of Castle Rock started to increase, then it became much more profitable to start to develop some of those parcels, and so we did. Where we sit now in Castle Rock is much more of a dicey land use proposition, because all of the easy parcels have been developed. All the easy stuff has been done. So this is kind of what triggered for me the land use discussion, is that now it's all about infill. And if you could have gone back 10 years to a planning commission meeting in Castle Rock, there were going to be some that were not particularly happy about what was happening. If you want to jump into a land use discussion now in the town of Castle Rock, it's particularly more difficult because it's all infill. Everything around it is surrounded. Everything becomes a little bit more of a difficult discussion. That's one of my concerns with this bill. Those discussions are heated. Those discussions are very important. Those discussions with our constituents, and I want to repeat that, our constituents, not mine, yours, your constituents, are very important. They're necessary. They need to be heard about what their concerns are with that new development that's going into the land that their realtor told them was always going to be open space. Check county records first, people. Probably isn't. Infill is going to be difficult. This completely circumvents any sort of public process where people have the opportunity to discuss that infill. Because some of the educational land that is owned, where is that? That's smack dab right in the middle of a single-family neighborhood, of course, right? Because that's the infrastructure that you're trying to build. That's the infrastructure that actually good planning supports. Good town planning supports this. Development services support this. They want to make sure that you've got your schools, you've got your medical centers, you've got everything that supports a good, thriving community. So that educational land that's smack dab in the middle of a single-family neighborhood that could now possibly turn into multifamily housing is a complete destruction of one of the very cornerstones of our economy, single-family housing. You're going to put multifamily housing, high-rises, in the middle of single-family neighborhoods. That is what could happen with this. So one, I can't support that. I think that's bad planning, speaking as a former planning commissioner. But also, you're not allowing for a public process? Well, that's just irresponsible. Now, I did hear that, oh no, we're not completely cutting out the public process from this. There still would be an opportunity to allow for public comment. Well, when there were 9 mayors represented during committee, I asked those 9 mayors a simple question. I said, hey, this more administratively approved public process, what does that look like? Does that look like what we're doing right here, right now? Does that look like when you have the opportunity, the public has the opportunity to sign up, to testify, to come to give their opinion, to be able to come give their concerns to a public body? Does it resemble that? Does it resemble robust discussion? And they said no, no. What they're talking about, the public input, is more administratively public input. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to fire back on a lot of local governments. Golden, Broomfield, Cherry Hills Village, Centennial, Parker, La Junta came up. Boulder, Colorado Springs, Lone Tree, the only reason that my town was not there is because it was actually a town council night. Castle Rock has already sent letters in open opposition to this. They were all there. They were all there. And I want to just mention again that I am a little confused about what the disconnect is, right? A lot of us came out of local government to where we are directly accountable to the constituents. And then we come here and our mayors show up to the meeting and say, this stinks, please don't pass this. And we say, yeah, that's cute. You know, drive safely on the way home. Why are we ignoring our mayors? Okay, I'm from Castle Rock, but anybody here? I'm sure there are some of us here that represent Golden, Broomfield, Cherry Hills Village, Centennial, Parker, La Junta, Boulder, the Springs, and Lone Tree. You have a responsibility to listen to them. What makes us so awesome now that we're here that we have forgotten how to listen to them? Those are our mayors. I sat in a Metro Mayor's conference. There are a few other people. There's one senator there. There are 3 other representatives. I'm not pointing fingers that were there. That we sat and we listened to the mayors say, it was a room full of people, say, please don't pass this. Please allow us to be able to represent our communities the way that our constituents have elected us to do so. But we're not listening. A couple of things I want to address from the introduction. There was a statistic that the first-time home buyer now averages in their 50s. Now, I can't say that this is true across all of the metropolitan area, but I can certainly speak for Castle Rock. You know why we have such a high age of first-time home, or people that are buying in Castle Rock? First time in Castle Rock? Because their grandparents coming in to be able to help with their families, to be able to help with their grandchildren, to be able to help, they want to be here. So some of those first-time Colorado homebuyers are actually coming in from out of state. Castle Rock, that's a particularly important statistic. One of the other things I want to address is that this notion that we're doing something right with affordable housing because, holy moly, the prices are going down. So we must be doing something right, so let's go ahead and continue to do more of that, and that's the support for this bill. I would actually challenge that net migration in Colorado has been declining rapidly over the last decade.
Rep. Brooks, you have 50 seconds remaining.
Goodness gracious. Thank you. Colorado is no longer experiencing sustained domestic in-migration. Demography office shows that approximately 12,100 more people moved out of Colorado to other states than moved in between July 24 and June 30, 2025. That's going to drive some prices down. You might figure that my conclusion about what's driving people out of the state might have to do with the regulatory nature, might have to do with the worry that they're going to have multifamily homes built right next to their single-family home. We have an affordability crisis. I admit that. I have freely admitted that. I will continue to admit that. This is not the answer. This is not the way we solve it. And we certainly cannot afford.
Your time has expired.
Thank you, sir.